The events for Supermassive and Hard Random. Team Comps, let's go.
How did he get Graves again?
And someone has Bard.
I don't get it. Why do these people? Do they just not watch anyone else's games? They just play their games and go straight to bed, have a Mexican siesta. I mean, he's played so many games and he's so good at it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing that he got the Graves again, and looks like Kira got his Lissandra as well, and they actually took away the Poppy.
What I also like there is Dumbledoge managed to get his hands on the Bard. So Liquid's on the alley, Dumbledoge on the Bard. Let's see who wins the first Bard game and whether or not that will be a super contested pick.
Well, the support battle's always one to watch, but let's get in the game because the draft is done. We're going to throw it over to the casting desk.
Cheers, guys. Great analyzing on the day. I'm Pulse, this is Frosco, and this is Rusty, and that kind of took me by surprise. We got through all that champion select. I think between us, we saw most of those champions, but something to point out is the Graves being picked up again, as Carmen was saying. How does he keep getting it? I don't understand.
I honestly, like, Carbon sums it up best. I think that Graves is the best jungler in this current tournament, in this current meta, in the way that everything has progressed. So between all of these teams, there should be this consensus that Graves should not be available to them yet. Time and again, he's always there.
Yeah, time and again, he just goes top lane and boof with the collateral damage, and it's just GG. But yeah, both of these teams coming into this one are going to be very entertaining. I think the TLDR is the supports are going to be the big playmakers on these teams, and then really mid lane is going to be like the civilian casualties just caught up in the crossfires. They just roam mid randomly at like 5 minutes in and start fighting. So should be a very interesting game to watch.
I mean, Carbon said it himself that this tournament was really defined by the jungler and the support duo, and like you said, mid lane just kind of happens to be that cross point where they continuously crash. And it's weird because usually when you think about the dual lane, it's the mid and the jungler going 2v2. But with such a potent and powerful jungler like Graves in comparison to Gragas, I'm going to give huge weight points to hard randoms here and Stayhouse in particular.
All right, guys, we are into game Supermassive up against Hard Random. First game in this best of 5. There is an MSI spot on the line. And both these teams are going to be fighting tooth and nail over this one as we get into the series.
Listen to that crowd.
Going ham.
I think the other big thing to talk about here is the fact that Dumbledoge is the recipient of the Bard. And I think a lot of priority generally goes on Alistar, but between both of these supports, it seems to always be Brad.
And the big thing also is kind of that 2v2 when we break down Sivir Alistar versus the likes of Lucian and Bard. It does look like a lane swap may be initiated here by Supermassive. But if that ever comes to a 2v2, Lucian and Bard are just so punishing, especially against the Alistar 1 through 3.
That's why I'm surprised they're looking for a lane swap. Realistically, I think they're looking to match the lane swap, but there's no deep enough vision to see it, in which case they might bait and switch themselves into the situation they don't want.
And now it's really a question of, do they quickly then force the wave into the tower and then try to reset for standard lanes to find the 2v2 to keep Miracle and Liquid down? Or is Liquid going to get unlocked and match Dumbledoge on their own?
That's almost what I feel is going to happen in this series, because when we've seen both these teams in lane swap scenarios, usually Liquid and Dumbledoge are the ones just simply leaving lane. It's just like, I'm just going to leave the AD carry and look for those roams very early on into the game. But
speaking of,
at the moment,
not the chicken
coming in. No, the chicken is down, has been smited away. And Sejos going into his bottom jungle now, Kira being pushed in the mid lane. We honestly don't expect a lot of kills, a lot of action pre-6 really between Kira and Naru. And as I say that, they start trading at level 1 because why not?
Should be noted that Lissandra and Graves are on the same team. I've said this before earlier in the tournament, but Graves is one of the few jungle champions that during the duration of a Frozen Tomb can come in and immediately 100-0 someone with his burst damage. So watch for that and how Stayhouse gets involved with Kuro at that level 6 point.
Yeah, very similar to how the Lee Sin Lissandra combo was like a couple months back when we saw that. Now Graves has filled in, has even more damage, and now Faldron is just, well, he's waddling up to top lane, and now he's there. Got that Maokai once again. Had really good performances so far in the tournament on the Maokai pick. Smurf, generally in other wildcard tournaments, I haven't been super impressed by Smurf, but I think he's done pretty well so far in this one.
He found his stride quite well once Maokai started becoming a prevalent pick as well, but then they gave him the echo one time saying, surely he can't play this as well. And I've never seen someone style on an entire team as effectively as Smurf did then. So it feels to me like he's a momentum-based player, and they've now given him momentum. And we're starting to see him really come into his stride.
Big question here, of course, as these lane swaps kind of continue and the first towers are falling. All of the experience and gold will go to Thaldron here as the first tower will fall. He's looking for a good bounce. Looks like he's going to get a very decent one on the other side. It's being matched by Smurf. So now it's a question of where do these two duo lanes end up, and is it going to be a gentleman's agreement to just open up these side lanes?
Really, I don't think we're going to see a lot of tempo built from that from either team. But Sergios is taking away this red buff rather, and I do want to look at the composition generally because we didn't really get the time in champion select. So we've spoken about some of the lanes, but what are the objectives for the teams? We have this massive front line coming in from SuperMassive, and then Achu, he's just on the Lucian.
I want to get to that, but I'm curious what Stayhost is doing over here. No, he's going to back up.
He's out.
So on Supermassive, you effectively have a lot of disengage tools. You have the Gragas, you have the Emperor's Divide, but you also have great pick potential tools and follow-up. So long-range engagement from Double Doge on that is going in.
Yeah, he's going to have to just try and force a recall.
Yeah. And then
Continue.
you have long-range pick. I'm just like, oh, they're crazy. I never know what's going to happen. The junglers are hanging around. He spotted out by a ward. Long-range pick potential, and then follow-up from Thaldrun on the Twisted Advance. So Tempered Fate into Twisted Advance. And a lot of space and movement for a Chu to run rampant on that Lucian. We've seen Lucian just be such a big power pick.
Whereas the other side is basically just a Sivir comp. Easiest way to explain it, press R. Literally the entire team wants to press R and put their face in. Wow.
Wow, Stonehenge, he missed the E-flash. So Dumbledore's auto came up. That was really nice timing, but you got to hit that combo.
It was really brilliantly played by Kira to step forward to make sure that he dodged it and then connects on the glacial path anyway.
Some say dodge. I'm happy to say
I'm going to say dodge.
Yeah, definitely Dumble dodged out of that one. Now Stajos in the jungle and trying to push Stonehenge, push him rather out. He's got it. He's pushed him away from the camp, and now he just has to go for Raptors. So he'll go into this top lane, tank down this tower. I think we should see a tower trade, though.
Frankly, though, he shouldn't have walked into that side of the jungle because that's not his strong side of the map. Again, we have that gentleman's agreement. So where do the duo lanes go? They match up with their top laners, gave him a free wave of farm, and then shake hands. Guess what? Side towers are going down.
Yeah, especially because he knew that Stajos was just in the mid lane, so it's a bit odd that he decided to go up there. But either way, they're going to go to that dragon and have this trade on objectives, and Herald will go over to hard random. So again, the 2-for-2 towers. No real difference really in farm. Looking more at mid lane, where Kira's been quite aggressive at Naru, surprisingly, with Lissandra. And yeah, now the Herald will go down. So just get this objective trade.
It makes sense to me as well that Kira's been putting in work against Naru. The matchup itself, really, Lissandra's passive should give her the advantage early. If they're trading the same amount, having bonus spells to use from free mana cost gives you a slight edge. And we even saw the reason that Kira was going over-aggressive was just because he knew Naru didn't have mana.
I want to quickly touch on the objective trade, though, that really happened. It was the Dragon versus the Rift Herald. And I actually really favor kind of the stylistic matchup here. Like hard random, they're more the 5v5 team. They have an excellent execution. Obviously, taking early dragons is going to empower their 5v5 later on to the game with those scaling stats. Whereas on the other side, Supermassive got the Rift Herald, which can immediately translate into global gold if you utilize it to take down more towers, which I feel like they're the slightly tighter macro-based team. So we'll see if they're able to execute on that, and maybe the Rift Herald can get them an earlier advantage to compensate for their 5v5 against hard random.
Especially if they start chaining them together as well, because teams who take early Heralds and then take 3 before 20 minutes, you're generally getting like 750 gold, because it's 50 global gold in every single person, which really adds up when you get to that around 20-minute mark when it starts despawning. So we'll see if they keep up the momentum on those Heralds, as we see Dumbledore's go back into the bot lane, the one-man defense, but Stonehenge and Achu are coming up to defend as well, trying to utilize this Rift Herald buff, but that was actually given to Miracle rather than the jungler or anyone else. So.
Yeah, and I did it backwards, so take back my entire point.
But
Rip.
Still trying to push down the bottom lane, but it was stymied by Supermassive. Back into the mid lane, level 6 now by Kira and Stajos, also at level 6. So we should see that combo you were talking about earlier, Frosk. And maybe go in here. Kira's going to pop the W, looking for an ultimate as well. Stajos coming into the mid lane, looking for a cloud of damage. Look at the timing on that cleanse out from Naru, and that literally saved his life. That was almost by the frame.
But again, it goes back to that idea that Graves had to get in position before the Frozen 2 went down. It wasn't used to catch Graves up into speed. It's trying to lay it down as the collateral damage comes down.
I will say, though, it's very easy for Stayos to just come back in. Now that there's no cleanse available, Lissandra would need only hit the W realistically if Graves is close enough to put down the burst. And with Flash still available, there is still a chance he lives, but the chance is lower.
Kira's still pushing up in this lane and just has such a massive mana advantage right now with the Catalyst and just pushing up into the tower. So Naru are going to find it a little bit harder to farm under this one. Naru's been an interesting player this tournament because Naru in general has used to be one of the big stars of any team he was on. And I think he's taken more of a backseat in this team, at least in this tournament. But from what we've seen of him, he generally just he goes in and deals a lot of damage, and the rest of the time he's doing a lot of farming.
It's about where he goes in. He'll constantly dive the back line and successfully hit it. Now, throughout the course of the group stage, he would typically trade his life for that and have a fairly even KDA. But during the semifinals, I don't believe he died once unless he dove the Nexus Towers at the very end.
Well, Sergos looking for another red invade. Dumbledore's found them though. Lands the Cosmic Binding Naru coming in as well. But we've got Licorice and Miracle coming up behind to provide cover
TP.
fire. There's On the Hunt used and the TP up to the top side. Kira's trying to get involved, but Miracle knocked away by the Explosive Cask. And really, Kira was not in position there. He was slightly off-timed with the TP. And SuperMassive just go down and out of their jungle.
Yeah, they just casually meander away. Honestly, that was too easy to disengage. To be fair, it is a Gragas and a Bard, so they can take a magical journey after a cask, but it also means that the engage was lacking in the first place because they did walk away.
And a lot of tools also expended to try to make that play happen there. So Kira naturally having the TP down. It's not super punishing because against SuperMassive's comp, they're not running the double TP. We've talked about how double TP doesn't really work well for Azir, especially when he's forced to take that cleanse in response to the Frozen Tomb on Lissandra.
Hello.
Rip.
Kira, he knows he's there. And E over the wall. Naru's just going to slide and glide away. Stonemage was even over the wall, and Zados again was a little far away, but looking for these constant setups. And I like it from Hard Random. Maybe 5 of them don't connect, but you get that one opportunity that actually works out, and then you just take a tower from it. So constantly looking for these opportunities. And here's another one. There's the ultimate to Naru, and no cleanse this time. Stonemage into the mid lane. That's the first one coming out, and Stonemage as well. Gonna go down. Double Doge. This is not where he wants to be, and takes the magical journey out.
And this is the thing that we were talking about, unlocking Licorice. When you open up lane swap this early and the side lanes go down, your support Alistar is just getting involved that much earlier, and he's making plays happen as meanwhile top.
Yeah, this is a tank fight though, so it will go on for quite a long time, and Smurf is done with this tank fight. Keep his verdicts will knock Faldron back to base, but from that play in the mid lane, 2 kills, goes right into a tower. Big momentum push from Hard Random.
And at this point in the game, it did feel inevitable that something had to crack. The early pressure from Hard Random finally paying off. And I was saying here we go before that happened. I was actually referring to both supports walking up the river from opposite sides. The major difference was that Steos was nearby as well, just in case things went awry, and actually picking up that second kill. But credit to Licorice, because the mechanical execution, actually stopping a body slam with his pulverize as well, everything was perfect for them.
And this guy has just been a monster the entire tournament. Formerly ranked #1 in EUS, so he's got the mechanics to back it up. They took the Bard away in the denial, but he's just as potent and powerful in this Alistar.
Yeah, definitely got those accolades. And it's like you guys were saying, the supports going up to mid lane is pretty much what we expected out of this series. Licorice going into the bot lane. I mean, actually, he knows he's there, but what can he really do at this stage? The headbutt, he doesn't actually get away, and the flash and the pulverize does not connect onto Achu, uses his own flash. So it's flash for flash. Well, actually, Licorice didn't even use his. So
nope, he connected gap closed with the headbutt.
GG.
Yeah, there's occasional interactions, I will say, with the Lucian where sometimes the headbutt does not actually push him in any direction if you dash at the same time, but took his chances there. Instead of flashing, still has to blow the flash.
Yeah, wasn't the worst outcome. There wasn't real backup there from Hard Random. Miracle back into this bottom lane. In terms of CS disparities, kind of a big one opening up in the top lane with Faldron. Bottom lane, a large one with Achu as well, but it's Hard Random been looking for a lot of plays in this game where they've kind of been leaving lanes exposed and less farming and more trying to make the play and then go for the objectives. So just have to see which works out in the end, because in terms of gold, Hard Random's constant plays have resulted in a 2k gold advantage.
The big thing for me in the itemization of the top lane is the fact that the Sunfire is completed, where you have the cow. So Smurf taking, as I say it.
He's got a mana.
Yeah.
This keeps happening.
Just send high.
Just flashy. It's cool. He's just proving he can press his buttons.
Yeah.
If I had it.
Yeah, if I had mana, you would be dead. I have Empress Divide, but sending a message, Kira, this is very ballsy. It's just like walking up and it's like on a quarter health, and he's just like, this is fine.
It's also because Graves just walked through the lane, and because Naru has no flanking wards, he has to respect.
Faldron in the top lane, though. He is very overextended. He'll go into the Vengeful Maelstrom, and Stajos is trying to look for a way to cut him off, but he's actually trading off against Smurf now. Now Stomage going to the top lane, is both back away, and Faldrin somehow survives and will carry on pushing.
But back to itemization, because the armor is completed on the Sunfire Cape and he has the completed item, with his Vengeful Maelstrom, he actually has good MR and armor coverage, whereas Poppy really only has one avenue in the Cal for the MR coverage. So advantage to Thaldrin, we saw it there in the kind of micro of the 1v1, but if this goes to a 5v5, Thaldrin is more prepared right now.
Achu in this bottom lane still farming up a Storm, but there was a big mini wave that went over to Miracle, so he did even that one up. Mid lane, Rod of Ages now completed by Kira, and now pushing up. There's a Sun Disc, and going to be eating out. Liquid and Stajos are also there to try and set up a play. So was Miracle. Dragon is now alive, so looks like Hard Random will be trying to get down here. Lots of pings going down. They are on the way, if you hadn't noticed.
But once again, they have no mana on Naru, so they're going to concede the Dragon to give him blue buff. And this is a consistent trend that we've seen on 3 occasions already in this game. Trying to fight and actually do even amount of HP in trades. Lissandra's favored. Easy rotation and objective taken.
Yeah, that will be the first over the Hard Random, 1-to-1 so far. Stajos again. This is really not been Stone Mage red buff this game. I think this is the 3rd one now going over.
This is actually a really poor back time from Naru. The fact that he didn't get back, that he has the blue buff now, but he's still sitting on, like Rusty said, a fairly small mana pool, means that they're not just conceding the Dragon, but also conceding that side of the jungle, so losing a lot of that pink vision, as well as their red buff.
So he's literally just taking everything away from Stone Mage. He just wants to get in there. All he wants is some farm.
And he gets to, because they just have control over the mid lane in particular, taking that early tower. Yes, the Sun turret was there, but Naru can't do anything at this point. Finally gets the back down, so the map has reset, and SuperMassive can now look to make another play.
Oh, they tried.
He's going in, but I think he used the flash midway through his combo, and Bard will pop the ultimate right onto the spell shield from Miracle, so he'll just walk it off. Stajos is also there. This is going to be a 2 versus 3. I'm not sure if SuperMassive have sight of him just yet, but he'll go up the river, so not going to resort in anything just yet. Mid lane, Kira backing away, but SuperMassive to me is not really being a team who has played exceptionally well from behind. When they're ahead, they have made some really good plays. They know how to pressure their advantage. We saw it against the Taipei Assassins. But when they're behind, they just don't seem to be on the same page. Like Dumbledore isn't getting plays off in lanes, and Naru is constantly having to play defensive on his sides of the map. As Kira goes in the mid lane, W lands, there's the ultimate. Another fast cleanse comes out. Kira, he just comes up big in the 1v1.
Yeah, you're right. He did get the perfect cleanse out in the same frame again, but Kira just has so much damage right now. Naru not respecting his positioning. They continue the chase.
Another flash, another W, another Graves coming in, but the ignite from Double Doge! And with 3 people there, Double Doge takes him out, evening up to 1-for-1 in that trade.
You can't take on the Bard in a fist fight because he's got Meeps to back him up. Kira does a lot of damage, and you can't cleanse the damage, which is why that happened in the first place to Naru. Overzealous with his positioning, and remember, still had flash, still had ultimate, decided that he could take the fight, and underestimated his opponent, underestimated Dumbledore as well.
I'm now imagining a scenario where Bard kind of walks out of a dark alley, and you're like, 1v1, I'll take you, and then suddenly just like his gang shows up.
I love the imagery, but I just saw Kira there just shaking his head, and it's just like, yeah. That does not feel good, being 1v1 by a Bard where you have 2 guys there as well. Either way, Dumbledore, you can see how strong he is as a player, because he plays the game in such a different way. Like, there's no other support really in the world who is just like straight up a carry by himself. Like, you look at his champion pool, it's like Poppy, Bard, Elise, like percent damage champions, just trying to fight people. Like in the series a couple days ago, we saw him literally just go up into the jungle, try and 1v1 the enemy jungler. He died a lot of the time, but he still tried.
He gave it a good go.
Yeah.
And it's just his style really coming out prevalent, right? The only person I would say that is close to that is probably Licrit, if you give him Bard. So very similar styles and understanding of how the champions work, and that's actually why the Alistar Sivir, in a situation where you wouldn't expect them to do too well, they have been doing well. Because the wards have been in laning phase on the flank to stop Bard from getting anything done. They're hyper aware of the capabilities of that champion.
And Stajos again. That feels the worst, man. When you have Razor Sharp buff and you find like a blue trinket, that is actually
or a pink
the worst.
ward as well.
Yeah,
Graves,
it's pretty
probably.
bad.
I'd say that's the worst.
The best thing is when you see the enemy jungler with Razor Sharp, you just place a ward in front of them. It's just like, I hate you.
It's just rude.
Yeah, it really is. And Graves is so bad at taking things. It's like one of the worst things to watch. And Double Doge is going to get a lot of damage on him. All he wanted was the pink. Licrit's here. And the Bard ultimate doesn't land, but Fardrin's coming in. So is Naru. Big Emperor's Divide. There's the first kill. Looking for a second. Faldron already used the W. Kira into the fight. He's going 1v5, but he's got the backup of Smurf coming out. Keeper's verdict will even up the odds. Naru's dropping low, but a heal comes in from Achu. And Smurf, he's CC'd. There's no way he can get the kill off. 2-0, and SuperMassive come big in this team fight.
Yeah, Hard Random got split apart right there, just not all on the same page, not having their line of scrimmage set up. Some team members came late to the fight. Yeah, Kira got into that back line, but there was zero follow-up at that point. So SuperMassive win the team fight. It's now a question of what do they get off of it.
They're trying to go for that mid-tower push. Miracle, another great spell shield, but they should be able to get this inner or this outer turret. I'm not sure if they can go too much further. Kira did go back to base and is now going back into that mid lane. So still, the tower trade is good, and it's now 3-3 on the map, and there's a slight gold advantage to SuperMassive, but mainly just evening up this game.
Yeah, and first thoughts looking at Naru's ultimate in that team fight was, what are you doing? Pushing everybody away from your own team, but it's because the flank from Hard Random was already established. The double teleports and the ability to get to the backline was actually the separating factor, because they needed to disengage after a fantastic ultimate from Naru, who actually mechanically played that superb.
Also did a lot of damage. Hit 3 people with that one, and so far SuperMassive looking good in these team fights. I mean, both teams have just real good ways to execute their compositions, and a lot of these games in the International Wildcard have come down to just team fighting mechanics, and if you land all of your abilities, then you're most likely going to win the fight. So we've seen a lot of champions who are more binary, like not super complex champions, really would just win these team fights.
I like the fact that they have so many tools to disengage and kind of reset team fights. Yes, Hard Random have the Poppy and the Alistar, but like the Emperor's Divide to say, okay, you know, Hard Random, they got the advantage this time, but let's just quickly reset this one and try again. And so I think Azir works wonderfully, especially against Hard Random.
For sure. Naru, he's definitely got the mechanics on that one. Gone for the Rylai's and the Nash's Tooth already at just under 20 minutes. He's farming extremely well. Dragon is now spawning, Cells taking a lot of damage from Double Doge over the wall.
Thaldron's going back, though, so possibly looking for a TP.
Smurf doesn't have his, so this could be a good setup from SuperMassive, but Hard Random will have to be aware of this.
I mean, his closest ward is effectively in the Pixel Brush on River, so if they're going to contest it, that'll probably be the trigger or the go point.
Well, the crab is up.
No, he's just walking.
Go Mage, yeah, he's walking over to mid lane. And
Bottle
now with Achu in the bottom lane, it doesn't seem like they actually want to go for this one. The Domadoge is going in, Smurf is on top of him, Liquid is still trying to zone away, Keeper's verdict, the smite comes down, Stados secures it over to Hard Random, Kira now going in, W lands, there's the ultimate, the Frozen Tomb coming in, Liquid going on to Naru, trying to zone the back line, Kira now coming in, Faldron in the back, he's tanking up this whole lineup and gets the kill over to Liquid, there's Domadoge, he's going down, and SuperMassive are just straight up split right now, that's a 2-for-1. Advantage over to Hard Random.
Major props to Smurf right there. Immediately ejected Naru out of the team fight. Azir wasn't able to set up the Sand Soldiers, get that consistent damage, and Naru had to expend so much more time getting back into position, and his team was destroyed in the meantime.
You can really see how close these teams are when it comes to the team fights.
Okay, is that no abyssal, no clue? Maybe we'll have to find out. Let's pop ourselves back to the casting desk.
Thanks, guys, and we are now back into game, and as they were mentioning on the analyst desk, it seems like there's maybe a little disrespect in the mid lane from Naru, but it's so difficult in that matchup with Azir when you have like 5 people gunning for you at all stages in the game.
Well, he gets to be pretty disrespectful at this point in the game just because he's got his Nasher, he has the Rylai, so he is actually very strong. I typically refer to Azir as kind of a 3-item power spike champion.
Yeah, but he's missing the most important item on the list. So like disrespect, he's doing damage. But if they get on top of him, which Lissandra can do,
yes,
it's good night.
I completely agree, but I was going to point out that the big item that's missing right now on Liquid is the Aegis. He's got it about to come online, or at least the first part of it, but they really need that AoE MR protection.
Sedo's going back into the bot lane and now clearing up this top sides of the map. There's now 22 minutes into the game, so Baron is alive. Fairly unlikely we'll see a team go for it in the near future.
Have you met these teams?
That is true. Fairly likely these 2 teams will go for that objective very shortly. Smurf going to be eating away to this minion.
Nice pivot.
Now, thank you. Snowmage into the top lane as well. He really wants this ward. Mid lane, no Naru with the ultimate. Right into Domadoge's Tempered Fate. Great combo, but there's no real follow-up in this mid lane. It's 2v3. So SuperMassive can't go in on this.
I'm not going to call it a follow-up. I'm going to call it a disengage. There was definitely 3 people there looking for something spicy, but good reset from Double Doge.
Small detail, but I feel like the communication wasn't actually there between mid laner and support in that situation, using 2 ultimates where one would have sufficed. Something that we rarely see from hard random.
Very true. You can see the wave cleared out from Sivir, instantly deleting that minion wave. And with this nice rotation to the bottom lane, they get a lot of damage onto that tower. Kira going to be jumping away, and Achu, lots of damage from the culling, using the Ether also to get him in range. So chunks Kira down to half health. That was just a really nice rotation from hard random. Noting that Naru and Double Doge, yes, they got the disengage in the mid lane, but used those ultimates and backed away, so they had time to get the chip damage.
Yep. And big thing also is the fact that the rest of SuperMassive were actually out of position, which is uncharacteristic for them. So not only the miscommunication on the teleports, but also just frankly being out-rotated like that.
Yeah, I guess Naru being forced back, Bard not having ultimates, there was things that set them up well, but considering the lack of vision both teams have, that was just a raw movement around the map. And it was a smart one at that from hard random. I do think that you have to remember, second dragon, they'll be taking those turrets down stupidly quick. And that's why they did so much damage there.
Yeah, definitely extra damage. Oh, TP coming in the mid lane. That's coming out
Big
from
flag.
hard random. And Naru, best of luck, my friend. Slide and glide over the wall, but he's out of mana. Another great cleanse, and Kira, he's not going to predict the flash coming out from Naru. The sidesteps, the moves, he's still trying to get away. Faldrin, he's trying to waddle his life out and goes right onto Kira. He should be able to get this Q down. Dumbledore's looking to put down some support, and E through the wall. Faldrin is still tanking up 4 people right now as Stone Age comes into the fight.
Miracle.
Naru is basically out of mana. Tempered Fate will zone Kira back in to Faldrin. Sal's now jumping over the wall, trying to get the damage onto Achu, but now collateral damage. It's not quite enough damage to finish him off, and 3-for-0. SuperMassive, great team fight.
Saving Private Naru, that guy went through so much to escape, and what's hilarious is on the back half of that team fight, it was pretty much a 0 auto attacks. He didn't have any mana left after his great chase, and he just comes back in, auto attack, auto attack.
And you know what? There was such a small detail of the teleport from Kira. The home guards was cancelled by a single auto attack from Achu. And that forced this really awkward situation where he had to kind of throw the claw out in the wrong direction and then compensate for the E over the wall. It was kind of really awkward. And the cleanse once again from Naru was just impeccable.
There's just a hilarious image of like this golden chicken running, Ice Cube chasing, Tree like home guarding after.
That was great because Stales saw the tree coming and his immediate response was flash forwards, get away from it. It was like 2 different 1v4s. But Thaldrin at this point in the game, he is literally unkillable from most of the members of hard random.
I just can't believe that happened. Naru getting out there, like 4 people converging on him, and he somehow gets away.
That's a highlight reel.
That really was. That was a highlight reel play right there from Naru. But I just have so much respect for these 2 mid lanes in general, because while they haven't been the stars of their team, they do make those highlight reel plays. Like, Kira has got a long history, so has Naru, and we just saw another one today. Smurf is going to be zoning with Stajos. Blue buff is being contested, but immediately from the momentum that SuperMassive got with that team fight, they're already pushing up. Kira, look at the damage coming out from Achu. Has no real way to respond, dashing in again.
He gets to be so aggressive and so far forward because he has the QSS completed, so he's not afraid of Kira right now. He knows if the Frozen Tomb comes out, he can easily get out.
Faldrin going in. He's got the support of Naru. This time he's got the blue of Dumbledore over the wall. Tempered Fate lands onto Smurf. You can flash away, but you can't run. And that's the kill. A Rise coming out. The auto attacks. And Naru picks up the kill.
And that's the fact that SuperMassive have just bullied themselves into that blue buff jungle. They've set down the triangle vision. They have control of mid and bot lane, and they caught hard random cheating through.
It's almost like the team with the Bard is the team currently winning the game for Oscar. That was a phenomenal pick.
Starting to see a trend here.
No, not between these teams. There's no trends.
Bardo has been doing very well in this tournament. Achu putting out this bot wave. There's another tower going down to SuperMassive. 4 towers to 3 currently. And SuperMassive over the last, say, 5 minutes, and really since that pause, have stepped up the pace of this game.
And this is a terrifying position for hard random to be in, because when SuperMassive are ahead, yes, both these teams play well from ahead, but the thing about hard random, it's much more kind of controlled and steady. SuperMassive are so good at identifying exactly where they need to be on the map in terms of snowballing objectives. So like pedal to the metal, it's on.
Naru.
What?
Interesting. Akira, he's over the wall to meet him. He pops the ultimate on himself. Dumbledoze and Faldron are there to follow up.
Good
Flash away
flash.
by Akira. He comes out. Stomach is there to meet him. Licorice comes in for the potential save. Faldron gets after him. Naru with the kill. Miracle now coming out. Sedros, but they need to go into full retreat. Keep his vertical used defensively. Atu, get out of here. Lyric, he goes down. And that's the second kill. 2-0 this time to Supermassive again.
I'm going to say good flash from Kira, but bad teleport to put himself in that situation. Just went way too deep. Not enough follow-up.
I'm still not sure what Naru did with his R button, but it definitely worked for them. We'll call it zoning on Graves because he couldn't get over the wall.
I'm going to say gardening on the wall.
Yeah. It was weird because some of the soldiers made it over and some didn't. And just got left behind.
But of course, the Baron's on and hard random. They're looking to contest.
Oh.
Tempered Fate. Well, just time out everyone. Faldron back onto Sadros. He'll be going down. Smurf coming into the fight, but there's nothing to really fight anymore. He's 1v5, 1 against the world, and he can't make it happen. Another 2 kills. 2 Supermassive, and let's just restart the Baron. There's no one to contest.
And suddenly this lead has ballooned. Supermassive in full control. They take 2 team fights to the Baron, and I mean, massive lead.
Yeah, a Supermassive lead over to them in this game. Miracle clearing up the top wave as well, but really it's just damage control. And this has really gone out of control for Hard Random from such a good early game.
Should note that Hard Random do have tools in their composition to deal with a Baron siege, just because you have excellent wave clear from Sivir as well as safe wave clear from Lissandra. So there are tools there. They can stall this Baron out, but it's getting a little bit scary.
Definitely, and even a little bit wave clear from the jungle as well. Definitely can't underestimate end of the line coming out from Graves. But with Supermassive pushing up, and probably, well, I was going to say 1-3-1, and especially when you have Dumbledore, I wouldn't put it past him to be the guy in the solo lane. But Supermassive pushing up this mid lane, they get that immediate tower. Sturgeon's called out. Cosmic Binding. I think he tried to dash, but the ultimate out from Stone Age as well. They should be able to lock him down. Collateral damage and the flash, but another Cosmic Binding. Naru can't see anything, but he knows where he's going. Follow up the E, follow up the auto attacks, and Naru with one last order will finish him off. Just caught out in his own jungle.
Yeah, once again, Seos, he has nowhere safe to be right now. The biggest counter to Graves to stop any of his kit being useful is crowd control, and Bard has that in Oodles.
I like how normally the word is spades, but we went oodles.
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 I love it.
I love that word.
Oodles.
Word.
No, excellent word.
Yeah, can't deny that. Faldron now pushing up the top lane. Oodles of damage onto this tower. Should be able to pick this up. And honestly, Supermassive are just all over this game. And when they're ahead, this is what we were saying at the start of the game. When they're ahead, they really know how to play from ahead.
Especially when Naru is ahead, but here we go.
Tempered Fate doesn't quite land. Stonewage as well onto Kira. Ultimate popped on himself. And Faldron and Stonewage are separated from the team. Smurf with the ultimate knocks away the big damage dealer of Naru. And that's Stonewage going down. And Faldron's trying to make a fast retreat. He managed to get out of the fray. But now the top tower siege. Achu's able to pick it up with a nice binding coming out from Dumbledore, Stadjot, and Smurf knocking against the wall. Didn't quite get the stun. And Faldron's back into the fight. He had the TP. Another cosmic binding onto 2 people. Smurf is trying to get away. Licorice, he's also trying to retreat. But Naru, he's back into the fight. Everyone forgot that he existed. And Emperor's Divine, he still had the ultimate. Knocks 3 people into his team. And that is just the wipe. 5-1, and the team goes down.
The counter engage from Supermassive was frankly Supermassive there. The fact that Faldron was able to escape after tanking the initial tower, backs with single-digit health, and then finds the immediate re-engage with the teleport was fight-changing there.
And maybe Hard Random could have survived, but there was a minion backing up Supermassive, taking down all of these towers. The Nexus will be falling, just padding those stats, and the first game of this best of 5 over to Supermassive.
I think it's safe to say after game number 1 that the person who has the lead, the team that has the lead early, are really the ones that can look to snowball the rest of the game out. We just sort of clashed between a Graves standard, favorite pick against a Bard favorite pick. Yep. Bard comes up better.
But the weird thing about that was Hard Random had a really good start to that game. Like, there was a lot of pressure mid lane. It seemed like Licorice was doing more than Dumbledore. Every time Dumbledore came to mid lane, he just couldn't make anything happen.
But you have to think about this. The map opened up so early. Again, it was a lane swap. We have a gentleman's agreement that either team are going to open up the side lanes. And what happens when the map opens up? Bard just becomes that more potent and powerful with his pick potential and the Tempered Fate. And like Rusty said, Bard came up in oodles.
Yeah, really did in that game. It was landing cosmic bindings all over the place, but really well played by both of those teams. But ultimately, to see Supermassive coming ahead, but it was a close game for sure. Anyway, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk to take a look at that game 1.
Thank you very much. And let's have a look at that first game, because hard random, it felt like even in the break when we were here, they were doing a lot of work, but it just all fell apart. What happened, Carvin?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. They had a really good start, we were saying. And we were saying that actually we were worried about what SuperMassive might have to do in the draft in the next game when they lose. But look, great game from SuperMassive. Bard played really well in the team fights. I think one huge thing, though, and I think this is maybe something that hard random should look at, is the Maokai ban. In LCK last night, we saw a whole bunch of Maokai bans. Today, we've seen a great Maokai in the semi-final from Turkey. We saw an amazing Maokai from Thaldrun as well. I think this guy's playing really well, and I think this is something that they need to target.
Yeah, and the Maokai himself was 50 CS ahead of the Poppy, and it was just so far ahead.
With no jungle influence as well.
Yeah, and just left alone and just got too tanky.
Yeah, and we expected, honestly, like, I think the lane to sort of neutralize a little bit. Like, we talked about it, sort of a low-impact lane in general. They're just going to pump and play tanks. Like, I don't know what happened in that lane, but for Thaldrun to get that far ahead is, like, there's an issue there.
I mean, he must have just outplayed him. That's the only thing that I can see. He must have just had a much better lane phase. With the camera wasn't top lane much.
Yeah.
Poppy versus Maokai, not the most exciting matchup, so I can understand. But look, yeah, he was 40 CS up in a pure 1v1. I mean, it was a lane swap, but you know, there was no real jungle influence in the top lane. So that Maokai came up huge. I mean, every team fight I was watching, Siva was just doing no damage because she's trying to ricochet off the Maokai, but Maokai's just so tanky that he can stand so far up that the ricochet isn't really bouncing onto the back line, and she doesn't do nearly enough damage to actually kill the Mao. So huge performance from Thaldrun.
Yeah, and Maokai, I believe he went Senpai into
Frozen
Heart
yep.
straight away. So, like Carbon said, Siva does no damage. Lissandra only looking at their backline. So, Maokai just coming up huge.
Well, it certainly was a true terror there. The tree in the top lane does come up massive for SuperMassive Esports. Don't go too far away, though. Game 2 is coming up right after the break.